Okay, I'm going to get started. So, I mean, that's clearly one of the most impactful movies of our lifetimes, right? And we've all been given the opportunity to sit here with you guys, and you made it. And I don't think that there's very many people in Cornwall right now. And you guys on the screen, you know, you're heroes. And you're here with us in pixels. So I'm going to get started. Thank you to everyone for coming. It's not gin. We are here with Ali Tabrizi, I will get that right, sorry, and Lucy, director and co-director of SEASPIRACY, and an incredible lineup. We're going to have a few questions and talk about the documentary. We're going to also swap around a bit. We've got some people to visit as well. So I'm just going to get started with our... Oh, actually, I'm on the wrong... I thought I was on the wrong bit. Bear with me. I thought we were introducing our panel. So forgive me. Just let me get to the right area. Okay. Right. This is what we're going to do. We're starting with Ali and Lucy, and then we're going to introduce the panel. I think my face has gone bright red, but that's fine. Bright lights. Ali and Lucy, can you just start by telling us a little bit about life following the documentary and also the really exciting 30 by 30 campaign that we're all here tonight to help support and celebrate. So maybe if you can start with that, tell us about how people can get involved with the campaign.
Yeah, so off the back of SEASPIRACY, which, you know, we weren't expecting it to go so big. And I think, was it in a matter of days or maybe a week? It was like trending and then #1, and then it was like #1 in, or top 10 in like 50 countries on Netflix in the movies, and it was one of the most watched in no time. And so off the back of that, we wanted to really harness that energy, because a lot of people were writing to us and saying, right, you know, I'm reducing eating fish, I'm going more plant-based, but like, what else can I do? And it was about trying to find a way to harness that energy into something productive. And so, you know, when Crowdfunder reached out, it was like the perfect synergy of trying to bring all these people together from around the world and you know, trying to do something meaningful. And it just so happened that the G7 summit was happening here in Cornwall. And so everything just sort of, the stars aligned on it. And so people have been donating around the world to, you know, crowdfunder.co.uk/30by30. And it's been doing amazing. And so, like, you know, we've got these blood money things, and it's just sort of kicked off, and it's just been absolutely incredible.
We're sharing a microphone, by the way. So the thing about the blood money is really interesting. A lot of you here in person will see that you've got some notes on your chairs. You need to pick them up. You need to look at it. You need to get your phone out. You've all been here to watch SEASPIRACY live, and it's been amazing for free. Now you need to put your money where your mouths are. Sorry. I'm a little bit more blunt than most people. You can use the really clever QR codes on there, flash it up on your screen and get involved. Can you tell us a little bit more about the actual notes themselves and what they mean and what they represent?
Sure. So I think, so each of these notes, there's 7 of them, representing the different G7 leaders. And we designed that, you know, behind them, there'd be a relevant image for that country. So, you know, if it's Boris Johnson in the background, you've got the salmon farming picture, which represents a lot of the problems that we showed in the film with Scotland. And then it might be the dolphin killing, the bycatch, which is happening in France. And so it's really just holding these leaders to accountability and saying, look, you know, this is, you know, blood is on your hands kind of thing. We need to actually change things. And so this is kind of blood money, and it's actually like a reward scheme so that, you know, whatever is donated is match funded through some other incredible donators. So it's a way of like turning that negativity into something positive.
It's amazing. You're getting everything that you guys put in tonight, and anyone online that's putting in gets the match fund on top. Well, that's brilliant. We've also got, as you can tell, some incredible people on the stage and behind us. So I'm going to introduce everybody individually, and then we're going to go around the panel, and everyone can tell you all a little bit about themselves. So Hugo Tagholm, founder of Surfers Against Sewage. You're pretty awesome. You're very obviously aligned with what's going on, and you probably have watched the movie a million times, know a lot of facts as well. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
We've been working on all sorts of issues, on water quality, on plastic pollution, and now on the ocean and climate emergency. And of course, industrial fishing is one of the things that is is causing havoc to our marine ecosystems. And we're absolutely aligned with the cause of this 30 by 30 campaign. We're actually calling for exactly the same. We need 30% of our oceans highly protected to stop not just industrial extraction of our fish stocks, which is this wild abundance. This is the last wild harvest on the planet. It's catastrophic, but also to stop other extractive industries, fossil fuels, mining in our oceans, so things that are really going to cause havoc. And we also need to think about the other 70%. What's going to happen there? We need actually a sustainable economy in that other 70% too, or try and protect even more. So SS is representing hundreds of thousands of people in this country. Tomorrow we have a paddle out in Falmouth. Over 1,000 people coming to make their voices heard about the need to protect our ocean from the climate and biodiversity catastrophe.
That's amazing. Thank you, Hugo. Brilliant. We're going to move on to Emily Stevenson, founder of Beach Guardian. Some of you met Emily earlier on. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, about Beach Guardian, and your up-and-coming aims and ambitions?
Absolutely, yeah. And just to echo what Hugo was saying, congratulations to you guys for just exposing such important issues. So my name is Emily Stevenson and I'm the co-founder of Beach Guardian. And Beach Guardian is a very local organisation to where we're based. We're based in North Cornwall and we basically aim to engage, educate and empower against plastic pollution. But, you know, that's just our tagline. What does that actually mean? Well, everything that we're about is about empowering people to tackle global issues. And we'd like to tackle, you know, local communities, really bringing people together, united over these global issues. So it's really, really great to be here, especially being in Newquay, close to where we're cleaning the beaches. So thank you so much again.
Well, hey, thank you very much. Now, on the screen, we have some very recognisable faces. I'm looking at you guys, but you're behind me, so that's quite interesting. Cyrill, Gutsch, Parley for the Oceans. Hi. You there? Can you hear me?
Hey there. Hi. Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about Parley for the Oceans and what you've been up to?
Yeah, the guy on the other side is responsible for that. The other side. Sorry.
Oh, did I get it? Sorry. Who am I?
No, kidding. I'm joking. The truth is that in 2012, June
That's
16,
just cruel. That's really cruel.
Yeah.
Cyrill's great.
No, so without Paul, there wouldn't be us in the ocean space, really, because I met him 9 years ago. And when I was sitting down with him in Frankfurt in a little law firm where, yeah, we all know the story, my home country back then arrested him. Not very proud of them. So I met him and learned about what's going on with the sea. And in that moment, when I realized that we're gonna leave behind a dead ocean, that might be the legacy of our generation, I called my partner in New York, Leah, and I said, listen, probably don't wanna be a design firm anymore. And we stopped on the 16th of June, 2012 to be exactly that and started Parley for the Oceans as a new form of an environmental organization, one that is not blaming, not shaming, but is trying to see the protection of the oceans as a big design job, honestly, you know, because when you're looking at it, all these environmental issues we're facing and that we are focusing on at Parley, plastic crisis, climate crisis, fishing crisis, you can fight the symptoms, yes, and you need, and we have to do whatever we can today to bring relief. Parley is operating in 30 countries right now, doing beach cleanups and whatever, with lots of partners, and Hugo is one of our most, the best partners we know in the UK. But then you have to go back and say, hey, we can't keep cleaning up. It's not even like solving the problems forever, right? And then you can try to get governments to change. That's a very slow undertaking if you don't have the industry behind you. So we believe at Parley that you have to make it a competitive advantage to change your business and to go out of exploitation, out of toxic and really boost eco-innovation. That's what we believe in. And we started doing that 6 years ago with Adidas. Adidas today is probably the most outspoken big corporation against plastic. We believe that you have to find alternatives. We created and invented back then this idea of turning marine plastic debris and ocean plastic to fund our cleanups, to fund the growth of our movement. And now we have to more or less find a way to fund replacements, because theoretically we can replace everything, and we believe in that. We believe that we can invent our way out of this mess. Thank you for having me, by the way. It's a great club, it feels like a family reunion.
It really is like a family reunion down here as well. Thank you so much. That's amazing. And now I'm going to go across to Captain Paul Watson. I've been told by Ali that we can call you Captain. I hope that's all right with you. And I hope you can hear me. From founder of Sea Shepherd.
Yes. Well, I established Sea Shepherd in 1977 to intervene against illegal activities. We're really a marine anti-poaching organization that's now become a movement. And back in 1977, established an approach which I call a strategy of aggressive nonviolence. Meaning we're going to be aggressive, but we're not going to hurt anybody. And after 44 years, we have not had any injuries. We haven't caused any injuries, but we have shut down hundreds and hundreds of illegal operations. Right now, we operate 12 ships worldwide. We're patrolling in the waters off West Africa, in the Mediterranean, in the Baltic, in the Caribbean, on the West Coast, in the Eastern Tropical Pacific. And what we're doing is intervening against poachers, but we developed partnerships with various governments. So we provide the resources, they provide the enforcement. So we're now allied with numerous African countries, numerous Latin American countries, and that has resulted in a lot of successes. So in the last year and a half, we've arrested and seized 65 poaching vessels in the waters off West Africa. We've confiscated about 150,000 meters of illegal nets in the Sea of Cortez. And there's so many more operations. And we're very, very proud to the fact that we're been associated with Lucy and Ellie with SEASPIRACY, because we've always felt that the most powerful weapon in the world is the camera. And if it's not on camera, it didn't happen. And the great thing about SEASPIRACY is it's actually, it's presented perfectly as a story. It tells a story and delivers a message. And it's also coupled with a very powerful medium, Netflix, which was able to reach people globally and in the millions. So in that way, it was really a very, very successful documentary. And so I think that they've done a wonderful job, and they're going to continue to do a wonderful job. And our movement is all the more stronger because of their involvement.
Oh, where have you gone?
Paul.
Cheers, Paul. Thank you so much. That's brilliant. And actually, you've led in very perfectly to the first of our questions. So we're going to get cracking. We've got a couple from Instagram, from the SEASPIRACY followers that are absolutely loving what you're up to. And our first question that's come up several times, Ali and Lucy, what are your future plans? What's next? I'm sorry, it's a tough one to start with.
Yeah, it is a tough one. So obviously, we're filmmakers. We'll be continuing to make these kind of, big revealing stories. It's what we're passionate about. But right now, I think the focus is making sure that, this film is able to achieve some things, systemic changes. It's already created this huge change in consumer awareness, and we want to just take that next step further. That's why we've sort of doing this crowdfunder with this 30 by 30 campaign. Lucy, I don't know if you want to add anything. I sorry, covered a lot of things.
I think just to back up what you said. So far, it's just been playing catch up, I think. We didn't expect the response that we got. So it's just been trying to keep on top of it and keep it in the headlines, keep the movement going. So that's taking up probably all of our time at the moment. We really wanted a break after the film. That hasn't happened yet. But like Ali said, yeah, we'll definitely be coming back to making more films in future.
I think that's absolutely brilliant. Your authenticity. You didn't just make a movie and then get loads of action at the end of it and then move on to the next thing. Your authenticity to see it through, and it is really inspiring, actually. We've got some fun questions now. Well, I say fun questions, fun names, because you've got Instaperson, Hairy Baby 4, has asked... Quite a lovely positive question. I'm actually going to go around the panel here. So we've Hairy Baby 4 would love to know what can people at home do in their everyday lives, in their working lives, to support oceans, nature, and animals. Because I think what was really clear in the movie was you may have uncovered everything about the ocean that needed to be told, but the reality is that actually it impacts every area of our planet and our lives and how we behave on it. So, Lucy, I'm going to go to you first.
So what people can do, I think, the most powerful thing you can do, which was highlighted in the film, is to shift towards a plant-based diet. And there was the other protect the ocean, which is why we're all here at the G7. And subsidies as well. So that's at a governmental level, but there's an endless way that you can help the ocean, come at it from your skill set, from your experience, and just be creative with it. And then obviously there's things like, you can always help with beach cleanups, the list is just endless. Just be creative with it, bring your skills and bring your passion. That's the most important thing.
I think that's perfect. I think because we're going to go across to Emily, who's probably going to just say the same thing. Tell us what you think.
Yeah, I think what's almost unfortunate is that many people think that to be a volunteer or to give back or to be an environmentalist, you have to give so much, you have to sacrifice something. But actually, as Sylvia Owl highlighted so perfectly in the film, there is something for everybody to do, and it absolutely all makes a difference. So something that I think is so accessible to everybody on the planet, we could all do it right now, is just to talk about the planet. Talking is the most human thing that we all do every single day of our lives. What we're doing right now, it is free to everybody. By talking about the planet, we connect to it. And once we're connected, we protect it. So my best piece of advice for everybody to do is just talk about the planet.
Well, let's keep doing it now then. Brilliant. Okay, Hugo, you work with a lot of people creating change.
I'd agree to an extent, and it's really important. We can all take action every day. There's radical acts, but particularly our dietary choices here in the UK and other nations like the UK. We can choose not to eat meat and fish. We can have a plant-based diet. You know, those are really powerful things you can do. You can choose, you know, how much you consume or how much you don't consume is a really important thing at the moment, and that's anything, not just what you eat. You can take part in beach cleans. Those are good. You know, it's not necessarily about what you're doing immediately, but the message that sends to industry, to government too. And actually, it's these small acts connected that's important. And we've all got a voice, and that's really important. We've got to connect those voices and send a message to politicians, because we're sort of trapped. We're all trapped in an economic, in a carbon, in a global system that we need to try and shift at the moment. We know, as Cyrill has said, as I've said, no, you know, business as usual is killing this planet. And so if we connect our voices at moments like G7, at COP26, we can change the systems around us. And that's the important thing. And politicians will listen. If we all talk up, if we all say the same things, if we start to demand change, change will happen. And this is the decade for action, not just talk amongst politicians.
Yeah, I completely agree. Captain Watson, what would you like to say about what we can all do to make change?
Well, you know, the strength of an ecosystem is in diversity and interdependence. So therefore, the strength of any movement has to be in diversity and interdependence. And we all have to understand that each and every one of us has the power to make a difference. We just have to harness our passions to the virtues of courage and imagination, and you can change the world. Each and every one of us can do this. So see what your skills are, what your abilities are, and whether that approach be litigation, legislation, education, or direct intervention, or science. It doesn't matter, as long as it's all going towards the same end. But we have to understand that we really need to do something and do it seriously. Industrial commercial fishing is destroying the ocean. If the ocean dies, we die with it. We need a moratorium, at least 50 years, on all heavy industrialized commercial fishing operations. They have to be shut down. We have to stop these massive subsidies, about $76 billion a year from governments to commercial fishing industries. That has to be shut down. We're subsidizing the destruction of the planet. If you want to address climate change, you allow the ocean to heal itself, to repair the damage that we've done to it. The ocean regulates climate and temperature on this planet. And if we're going to take it seriously, we have to take some serious action. And that means shutting it down.
Thank you very much. The way you explain things is very clear. It's very clear to all of us what needs to happen. Cyrill, what would you say the regular people could be doing to get involved and to make some action?
First of all, I think we have to let go of that guilt. I think right now, everybody on this planet feels that something is going dead wrong here. And lots of people feel guilty and responsible for it. And probably we are. And in a way, we are all. The truth is, this doesn't help. Fear doesn't help. Guilt doesn't help. I think what really helps is optimism and to say, listen, we brought ourselves in a very bad situation here. Let's just maneuver out, right? I don't want to do this anymore. I want to take something on. And on my private time, as a person, an individual who lives on this planet, I can make these choices and I can speak about them out loud, but I should act first. I mean, if I sacrifice a bit, like not using single-use disposable plastic bottles, honestly, cutting down fish, or ideally not eating fish, perfect. Speak about it, share this and experience the whole path, also the difficulties that you have with it. And also kill this idea that an activist has to be perfect and a saint. I think that's a very old idea. An activist doesn't have to be a saint. An activist just does something, and everybody can be an activist, and everybody should be an activist. Otherwise, you're a bystander. That means not shying away from complicated situations and trying to understand even the most complex contexts. Like there is no scientist that will like decipher that for you in a way. You know, it's just go for it.
I like
and
that.
then I would say also nag and demand. Even if you get something and somebody offers you the bag or gives you utensils or a material while you're working, or just speak out. And even if there's no solution, just keep asking and demanding. I think that's a good start.
Okay, brilliant. And actually, it leads on really beautifully to our next question, which is, what has been, this is from Minertia Mintropia. I don't think reading out Instagram names is a good idea. But Minertia would like to know, what has been the biggest change in people since the documentary? And this is quite nice because it's what positive action has happened since this happened to you guys. And we're going to head across. Hugo, have you seen any positive change in your world since Seaspiracy aired?
Yeah, I have. Look, I think it's brilliant. And, I know that Lucy and Ali have been buffeted by some criticism as well as massive praise, like for the film at times. But, what they've achieved is to cut right through to the public with a really core and spot-on message of how the seas are being destroyed by industrial fishing. And that is a fact. We're decimating global fish stocks, and that needs to stop. And I've seen change. I've seen people that wouldn't have been talking about ocean protection starting to pipe up, starting to change their dietary habits, starting to take action, starting to be interested. I've seen a whole new debate. I've seen new events spring up around it, and actually a whole new wave of action and activity on the need to really radically protect our ocean. And I'm pleased to see this 30 by 30 campaign, because this is what we need to do. We need to really radically protect our ocean and our land over the next decade. We want to be getting to 2030 and seeing an ocean teeming with life again. I talked to Ali earlier about, we hope, whales and more dolphins and more animals will come back to the coast here, that will, really start to boil with life again, as it did, decades ago or centuries ago. So I see people talking about it, and that's really good. And I do see an alignment between government and business and individuals now. We're all starting to point in the same direction. Action has to happen, and that's something that the film is really underpinning.
Brilliant. Okay, well, that's good. It's working then. But you know that already. Okay, next up, we've got a really wonderful movie. We're being joined remotely by the brilliant Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall, who's got a question for our panel. Ta-da! Should appear.
Sorry I can't be there today to join in your discussion. Sure, it's going to be a very, very lively one. One thing I'd be saying if I was there today is that I find it very difficult to sign up the idea that we have to write off seafood forever, that the only way to sort out the problems in our oceans is for everybody to give up eating fish. When the oceans have such an incredible capacity to feed huge swathes of humanity, I don't think that that's going to be the long-term solution. I know lots of you in the room today are going to disagree with that. So I think it's incredibly important that there is one thing that all of us who care about the seas can sign up to. And that's the idea that significant parts of them need to be protected. So I've signed the petition, and I fully support the 30 by 30 initiative. It's ridiculous to be declaring marine protected areas and then protecting nothing inside them. That's why I joined Greenpeace earlier this year, dropping boulders to actually prevent fishermen getting into the areas that are supposed to be protected. These are controversial actions, and this is going to be a controversial campaign. But we don't have time to do anything less than be controversial now. So I hope you have a very, very lively discussion, and I hope you all get behind the 30 by 30 campaign. Thanks for having me.
That was great. So we're going to actually go to a couple of you now, and ask you your response to Hugh's video. So, Ali, over to you.
Yeah. So I think one of the messages that he said was that, he doesn't think it's a realistic message that we should, ditch seafood. I'd like to see some specifics of who he's referring to, because I think pretty much everyone in this room, unless you've got a genetic disorder, which means you will die if you don't eat fish, I think pretty much all of us can actually move away from eating that. So, unless you need to fish for your survival, and like those fishermen that we showed in West Africa, they rely on that to survive, absolutely. But for the vast majority of us, it's a real privilege to be consuming this wildlife, and it's a destructive privilege. So other than that, I agree that, we do need to come together to protect our seas.
Yeah, jump in.
Yeah, I agree with everything Ali just said, and obviously the people we're asking to shift to a plant-based diet, obviously those who are able to. That being said, one of the organisations that appeared in the film, Oceana, they had a similar stance that they don't think it's realistic to ask people to give up seafood, but if only they could see the responses we've had since the film has come out. The number one response I've gotten is people writing to say, I'm giving up seafood. There's been cafes, grocery stores, restaurants who are all giving it up, and that's been by far the most common response. And it's just amazing what people are willing to do when you give them this kind of information. So, yeah.
I actually know for a fact there's a lot of people in this room tonight that have actually not eaten fish since they watched. So, I think there's a lot of people out there that are feeling the same. Emily, do you have a response to Hugh's video?
Yeah, I'm no fisheries expert, so I can't necessarily comment on the kind of industry side of things with the fisheries management, but what I can say is from a plastic side of things, of course, we do find a lot of plastic fishing gear on our beach cleans. We've got Cetus the whale right out front as a clear representation of that. But I think in terms of Hugh's point about it being realistic or not to ask people to boycott the industry, I'm going to steal an analogy that Dame Sally Davis, the UK Special Envoy for Antimicrobial Resistance, uses to describe COVID-19 and antimicrobial resistance. And that is, the fishing gear in the ocean is like the same as putting a lobster into a pot of boiling water. It's very violent and it's very instant, and you can see the death. However, microplastics in the ocean are like putting the same lobster into a pot of cold water and slowly bringing it to the boil. The outcome is exactly the same. The lobster dies, but with the slow boil, it's a much calmer but sinister outcome. And I think this is the problem that we're facing, is that whilst I absolutely agree that fishing gear in the ocean is a huge, huge issue, if we just focus on that and forget about microplastics and consumer plastics, then we may have more issues to face in the future. So we have to tackle all of these issues and not just focus on one.
I think there's a lot of people that are going to agree with you on that one. Cyrill, what do you think about Hugh's video? I think you might be on mute.
Yeah. So I stopped eating fish in September 2012, and to be honest, I can't even imagine eating it anymore. I don't miss it. It's easy to replace. I can afford to do so, right? I will not speak for somebody who can't, somebody who has the only income source or the only, I would say, a local food source. I'm not in that situation. I'm in a privileged situation. Still, industrial fishing in general is an issue, and it's a massive issue. It's a mass killing. And it is done in a way that there is no hiding ground for these animals anymore. It's definitely not a fair play. And I think we can just all agree that industrial fishing needs to stop. The damage is too big. Do I fight with the one fisherman in the Maldives who offers me a tuna, not knowing that I'm not eating it? Probably not. I would provoke him. But then I'm sitting on an island and there's not so much else he can do. I try to kind of show him how to farm, but he will probably still stick with his tuna. This one guy is not a problem with the pole and the line. The problem are these massive trawlers that are taking hundreds and thousands and millions of animals out there, and the bycatch and ripping up the seabed. So I think at this point in time, everybody who can, and we definitely all in this room do, should just change the diet. And I'm not eating meat anyways. So meat and fish, I think, should go off the menu.
Yeah, hand in hand, like a lot of people are saying. Captain, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's completely unrealistic to think we can live on this planet and continue the way we're doing. What's unrealistic is to think we can survive with an ocean without fish. Since 1950, we've had a 40% diminishment in phytoplankton populations in the sea, and phytoplankton provides up to 70% of the oxygen that we breathe. The fish are part of the engineers that keep that life support system going. I think it's grossly irresponsible for Oceana or Greenpeace or any organization to say that seafood is sustainable. There is no sustainable fishing industry anywhere in the world, commercial fishing. You know, like as Cyrill said, if you're living in a small island, you got a canoe and you go out and catch a fish, that's not the problem. The problem are super trawlers, 100-mile long lines, 100-mile long gill nets, giant purse seiners, drag trawlers, $100 million ships that are going out there subsidized by the government to destroy our ocean. If you eat a fish, you're part of that. You're complicit in the destruction of diversity and interdependence in the ocean.
And I want to add something to that. I would not also, I would definitely not point the fingers to Asia here only. I mean, the situation is in Germany, for example, the Metro Group, one of the largest fishing fleet there is, right? Electrified fishing nets. I mean, I think that's just a global disease that we think that we can vacuum clean our oceans and there is no consequence to that.
Thank you very much. Really passionate responses. We're now going to go over, you can't see them, but we've got a big audience on YouTube tuning in and they've sent some questions over. So we have got Sustainable Hayley on YouTube. She's asked, other than plastic waste and fishing, were there other avenues that you felt that you didn't get a chance to explore, but are also significant contributors to the exploitation of our oceans?
Gosh, I mean, you could really spend a lifetime covering this issue, and with the limited time we have, we did our best to try and cover as much as possible. But sure, there's so many other things, the mining, the deep sea mining and those types of things are an issue. But we found across the board it did tend to come back to the fishing industry, and there are many other aspects of the fishing industry that we wish we had more time to explore. But off the top of my head, I don't think there's anything that I wish I had more time to cover. But really, there's so many more human rights stories that we would like to cover in the film. It's really like a tragic stories, and sometimes the governments are even complicit in that as well. We've heard stories that we weren't able to include of, a slave jumping ship, swimming to shore, making his way to a police station in a country that he wasn't from, asking for help, only for the police officer to, and this has happened either they return them back to the slave ships, or the police officer keeps him as a slave on his own private farm. So this is where this, like, the systemic thing comes back into it, and there's so many more of these stories that we would like to have covered, yeah.
I think it's really hard because, for people who haven't watched the movie, you don't realise that the fish you're eating could actually be a result of somebody having been killed. Like, I don't think anybody would have known that. Maybe one for Ali.
Please jump in on that one. Just because this is a really interesting one, because we found that a lot of the time the marine sciences that you study at university, there's basically a one-way track into fisheries management, and it sometimes works. A lot of the times the jobs in the marine sciences is as a fisheries scientist, and your paycheck is coming from the fishing industry. So Callum Roberts is someone that I'd look into for an answer on that. He was the professor in this film. I think he's from Exeter University, and really studying marine conservation as opposed to marine management is probably the better avenue to go down. I'd reach out to him.
Oh, brilliant. Well, there's a good answer. And Cyrill, do you have any advice?
Yeah, I would definitely look into substitutes. I would probably learn as much as I can from animals in the sea, plants in the sea, and then go in a total different direction. That would be material science, and see how I can help growing things in a way where we learn from nature. We learn from these creatures out there that produce the meat, that produce the skin, that produce the color of our eyes or the surface of a leaf, and just try to find a way to collaborate with nature. I think the next big step for us humans will be to really not kill anymore, and learn instead to unlock how nature has in the last millions of years developed all these skills and apply that.
Fantastic. Hugo, what do you think?
Look, yeah, I would agree with Cyrill there, and sort of what he was referring to was this complexity of the ecosystem, really, the millions and millions of years that this complex life support system has taken to evolve around us, and we rely on that. And Paul talked about it, and Cyrill's talked about it, and we've all sort of discussed it, and we're deconstructing that at a rapid pace. In just a few decades, we're destroying this very complex ecosystem made up of so many different specialists in the ocean, on our terrestrial landscapes that we depend on, and we don't even know how to recreate that. This is the most complex machine that we need. So yeah, I would say just to the point of sort of what you sort of study and what you get into, you don't have to go into marine biology or conservation to study that and have a voice in it. You could be a brilliant filmmakers. You could go into law. You could go into engineering. You could do anything, and you could direct that passion and that skill and that aptitude into protecting the ocean or protecting the planet.
Can I add something really quickly? Just something came to me while Ali was talking. I think when you're studying marine biology, I think that's great. We obviously interviewed some great marine biologists in the film. I think you've really got to be aware that there's two different approaches to it. When you go into this side of the fishery scientists, it's a whole different language that they're using compared to conservationists. So fishery scientists, you often hear things like maximum sustainable yield, fish stocks, these type of things. And when you get more into the conservation side of things, like Callum Roberts, who appeared in the film, you're hearing a whole different language when it comes to the ocean. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're studying this.
Okay, thank you. Now we've got Wayne, the Turtle King, on YouTube with a question for you, Captain. Do you really think, I think we know the answer to this, do you really think protecting 30% of the ocean is enough? That's a terrible question for you.
Well, personally, I think we need to protect 100% of the ocean. It is our life support system, and we're killing the engineers. If you look at this planet for what it is, it's a spaceship. We're on this incredible voyage around the Milky Way galaxy, and every spaceship has a life support system that provides us with the air we breathe, the food we eat, and regulates climate and temperature. And that spaceship is run by a crew of engineers. Not humans. We humans, we're passengers. We're having a wonderful time entertaining ourselves, but we're murdering crew members. And there's only so many crew members, engineers that you can kill before the machinery begins to fall apart. And when it goes, the passengers go down with the ship also. We need a viable, strong, interdependent, diverse ecosystem. And we have to stop treating fish as commodities, as products. They are engineers on this planet, and they keep us alive, and we need to protect them.
Thank you very much. And Ali and Lucy, we've got a question from Jemima. Do you have specific areas of the ocean in mind for the 30% that should be protected by 2030? And if so, why those specific areas?
Well, at the moment, I think we should be really trying to pinpoint exactly where those hotspots are, where marine biodiversity is in such need of marine protection. Starting with those areas would be the best place to start. But I think any approach to increasing the size of these highly marine protected or no-take zones is and should be applauded, because currently about 97% of the UK marine protected areas still allow bottom trawling. And this is mirrored across the world. Even within the Galapagos, for example, incredible biodiverse region, you're having huge amounts of illegal fishing happening there. And sometimes you have more fishing happening within marine protected areas than outside. So any measure to increase it is what we need to do.
I've had it so hard to understand how you have such heavy fishing in areas that are protected. Because
that's where the fish are.
I just didn't have any idea that you think as a bystander that this can't happen. You're told that it can't happen, so you think it doesn't happen. You have no idea.
The no-take zones inside marine protected areas are by far the most effective, because the ocean has an amazing ability to bounce back when you ban fishing and you ban extraction from it. And often this is done in the name of more fishing, so because it's actually better for the fishermen because they can come in and get more fish at the end of it. So they really are incredibly amazing at bouncing back when they're given the opportunity, and we really need to ban fishing in those areas.
Just gets me, we live in such a dishonest world where we're literally constantly told lies or not told anything at all. And I just...
Dolphin safe? Isn't dolphin safe?
Is it dolphin? That part of the movie.
Can I add something to that?
Go, Paul. Paul Watson.
Paul?
Yeah, you know, for hundreds and hundreds of years, the Polynesians had a thing called kapu. And these were laws. If anybody was caught fishing in a kapu bay, say in Bora Bora or Hawaii, it was a death penalty. And people say, oh, that's really extreme. Yes, but they also knew that if the fish disappeared, they would die. And therefore, it was a matter of survival. There are no kapu areas anywhere in the world today. As Ali said, the sanctuaries, the reserves, that's where the poachers go. And in fact, Rayathon, the fish finding company, the motto of their device is called, the fish can run, but they can't hide. And that's the problem. The fish have nowhere to go to protect themselves.
Thank you.
And technology-wise, they're very easy to track down. There is no hiding ground. And a marine protected area says nothing if there's no enforcement.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we are going to, we've had so many questions online. We're now going to give our audience here at Seaspace some action. So I'm hoping somebody's got a couple of questions. Anyone? Don't leave me hanging.
Back there?
Yeah, so down the coast at the G7, I think right now, they're all in the Eden Project right now, having a nice fish dinner, I believe.
Oh, God.
You had any suggestions for what the world leaders could be eating to maybe educate them a little bit on some of these issues while they enjoy their nice dinner?
Do they grow potatoes at the Eden Project? They should be eating plants there.
They're having potatoes and Cornish grown vegetables as well.
Yeah.
Just maybe an alternative instead of the fish, what could they be having?
I mean, there's loads of stuff. I mean, like anything really. You don't have to have those alternatives. Like there are great, plant-based salmon and plant-based fish and chips, but you don't even need to have those things. But I think Simon earlier pointed out a really interesting fact that right now the reason why they've chosen Carbis Bay for the G7 is because first of all, it's apparently 2 roads in, but it's also facing the ocean. So right now the ocean is actually protecting the G7. So we're asking the G7 to in turn protect the ocean. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's some amazing plant-based alternatives coming into the market, and it's just becoming more widely available. But also, you don't need those alternatives. There's some great ingenuity out there with there's banana blossom, there's chickpea tuna, there's tofu when you use the nori. So there's a lot of other alternatives that mimic fish that don't cause a destruction to the ocean.
I've seen somebody eating fish that is from something else, and they ate it and they couldn't tell the difference. It was on TV. I believed it. I hope it's true. That you can't tell the difference.
Yeah, if it's good, yeah.
Right, we've got another question from our audience here. Right at the back. You have to speak loud.
I have a question. So what is the most shocking part of your film to you? Which part of that story?
The response has been shocking. I think for me, it was almost like it's Venn diagrams. They're all sort of converging at this moment in West Africa where, we're out with Sea Shepherd who are doing this incredible work out there, and you're seeing the environmental depletion and the wildlife loss, but then also the human factor comes in with those canoe fishermen who are then begging for food out at sea, completely bizarre. And the convergence of those things was really quite shocking to me, especially knowing just how dangerous we found out that fishing was, about 24,000 deaths a year within the industry. And also the consequence of having to hunt bushmeat now, and how that led on to the Ebola pandemic or epidemic. So for me, I think that was one of the most shocking. What about you?
The most shocking, obviously, there was the human rights abuses, which were terrible. Will stay with us forever. But also in terms of just raw, graphic, terrible footage that we captured was obviously the Faroe Islands, which we didn't know what we were getting into there. And that was, really quite traumatic. But also a lot of footage that didn't make it into the film was other animals that were being killed, fish being killed alive. There's just so much brutality when it comes to creatures in the ocean, because they kind of come at the bottom of our list of compassion, just because they're the least like us. They're the most alien to our senses. They exist underwater. So I really feel like, that was the most shocking for me, just realizing all these individuals were just being treated so poorly, and in the biggest numbers as well. We're talking trillions, So marine animals really suffer in ways we can't imagine, in numbers we can't imagine.
I think the language that you use to talk about these creatures, personalities that are under the sea, is also really important and empowering, because I think for a lot of people, fish are just fish, and you don't put a personality onto them, whereas you've actually completely changed that.
I just realised I said fish being killed alive. That's all that everyone's, we're killed alive. But I mean sort of terrible things while they're alive, served on plates while they're alive, cut up while they're alive. That's what I meant.
Yeah, that is pretty grim, especially when you talk about it out loud. That's what's been missing, isn't it? Okay, so now we've actually got a pretty cool thing that we're going to do now. It has just come in on the wire for me. So we are going to be heading to Canary Wharf, where we've kick-started the 30 by 30 campaign, thanks to everybody's pledges. Tonight in London, they're going to be spreading the word about this brilliant campaign. So apparently we get to take a look.
Oh, no way. I didn't know this was happening.
That's very cool.
So that's Canary Wharf right now?
Right now.
Live?
Yeah.
And that's the 30 by 30 campaign projected onto the building.
There you are.
Right on. Nice. All right, well, so that's literally like the donations went like straight in.
So that's the
creating it.
money. That's the money being spent helping to take your story further, which is the next action from your brilliant film.
And we've got some more landmarks coming tonight too, right?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Oh yeah, that's what it just says here. Keep your eye out for some very
Keep your
famous
eyes peeled. There'll be more.
landmarks.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So we're back on our panel. I'm going to finish with one last question for everybody, and it's a question from, I guess, all of us in the room. Hopefully our other panelists come back. There we are. You're back. Good. I was feeling a bit lonely there without all of you. We're going to ask each of you to give us a response on if there is one thing that you could ask any one person to do, what would it be? I'm going to start with you, Lucy. Sorry,
I tuned out. What was the question?
If you could ask any individual person in the world to do one thing, what would it be?
That's a huge question. Can I go
Yeah,
last? Can I
Ali.
just think about it?
Yeah, I think it's that one person listening right now, and they're on the fence of whether they should, maybe do that thing and maybe become plant-based. And I know how difficult it can be at the beginning. You got family and friends around you, then they're criticizing you for doing it. But I think just to try it, and I think you'll see just how easy it can become. Get the support you need, and try, start, caring about the ocean and taking some actions in your daily lives. I think that'd be amazing. But also, Boris Johnson. It would be awesome, and all the rest of the G7 leaders, but particularly if the UK could really kick off this 30 by 30 and make those marine protected areas actually mean something, to have Boris Johnson on side would be incredible. So I spent two people there, but...
Amazing. Right, Emily.
I think what's really important for me is that people realise that, through the work that we've been doing at Beach Guardian, we had to very quickly realise that not everybody cares about the beach. Not everybody cares about the environment. So if you want to protect the environment, you have to find something that they do actually care about. And everybody cares about human well-being. And we have to realise that if we are going to protect human well-being, we have to protect the environment. And we've seen that with the COVID-19 pandemic. The overexploitation of wildlife leads to such devastating consequences. But it's not just our physical health, it's our mental health too. And this is particularly clear in young people, this eco-anxiety, this fear of inheriting a damaged planet. So if we protect the environment, we're not only protecting our physical well-being, but mental well-being of future generations too. So that's my one wish, is that even if you don't care about the environment, care about yourself.
That's amazing. That's a very good response. Brilliant. Okay, Hugo.
Look, I'd probably treat the world leaders as one and speak to them as one and say, put the ocean at the heart of discussions at G7 and COP26 and the recovery of the ocean. We really need to take radical action now. Then their words need to turn into action to restore our equilibrium with this planet. And this is a decade to do it. So act fast, stop just talking, and put the wheels in motion to create the change.
Couldn't agree more. Captain Watson.
Well, I would say, address each of the members of the G7 and the leaders of the G7, but they won't listen. But I would say if I had the opportunity, I would speak collectively to all the young people in the world to understand that they have the power to make this change. They have the power to make a difference in the world that they're going to inherit. is going to be a world far different than the world that we have lived in over the last few generations. It's a very serious situation, and I'm very, very hopeful because I see so many young people who are involved, who understand, and who are becoming active.
Thank you very much. Cyrill, over to you.
Yes, I think that we are just living with design failures right now. You're looking at plastic, the material is a design failure. When you're looking at the fishing crisis, the way we eat is off. We can't afford that anymore. And when you're looking at climate change, then yes, we definitely need new technology there. So my call to action would be put the same money that we just invested globally into the pandemic, put that into the biggest eco-innovation fund the world has ever seen. Like a true global Manhattan project, where it's not about inventing the nuclear bomb, but the opposite, disarming it. Because right now, we are that bomb.
Thank you very much. Lucy?
I think it was particularly hard for me to answer just because it's so hard to think of one single person. Yeah, sure, there's the leaders of the G7, and we, but it's not just people with the power. It's also individuals. It's everyone. This is going to take a real collective effort to shift what's happening to our oceans. So I'm just going to ask everyone, do what you can, even if you don't think it's much. Every little bit is going to help. So yeah.
I think that's a really lovely way to end, actually. And on that note,
Just one thing to add to the end of that, I think, is that I just wanted to say something that I think everyone's very surprised that I haven't said so much tonight, but that's because I was out there enjoying the ocean and I did this injury, which is why I'm sitting here at the back tonight. But I think what Lucy was saying is the most important thing. I think we should all not worry so much about the G7, because that's not where the real power is. I think what we should be worried about is that 7 million or the 7 billion or the 8 billion people that for the first time can all come together and make things happen more than ever before. And when you see a film like we've all seen this evening and millions of people have seen, people are empowered to come together, not just what Emily said, which is talking about it, but acting together. They actually will listen to us. We don't need to spend a lot of time talking about Boris, but he does listen to the people and he will change, and it's down to us to make sure that change happens. And that change happens tonight, here now, and that's why everyone should do something tonight.
that's an incredible rallying call for Rob. For those of you who didn't hear, and for the benefit of those online, Rob feels that we should tell G7 to do one and remind ourselves that the power is within all of us individually, united across the planet to make a difference, and that we can start tonight, and it's already started.
That's a perfect segue into tomorrow's action, which is our Cry for the Ocean, which is exactly that. We've been bringing all these people together, and we are going to be making sure that those G7 leaders do hear all of us with our Cry for the Ocean. It's going to be blasted out really loud. There'll be more on it. Social media, we'll be telling everyone how they can get more involved. But we're going to make sure that they hear us.
Brilliant. Thank you. Well, in that case, thank you, everybody. Emily, Hugo, Ali, Lucy, Cyrill, and Captain. You've been amazing.
Thank you.
And our audience online and our audience here. So thank you very, very much, and good night, Seattle.
For the ocean's climate life.
And thank you, Jess. Thank you.